guys, how are y'all doing? It's been a little bit, but we got a product review for you today. This is the Monarchy Mobb MS Scepter. It's quite a mouthful. It keeps in line with the traditional Monarchy Mobb, which we all know and love. It's been around for a long time. One of the most infamous Boro Bridge RBAs ever made. This one has its little hat tipped to us, a little crown. Not intentional, but I've been running with it because, well, we'll get into that. But yeah, I got it in the Real Mods Real. Real Mods is from Spain. This is a my own personalized one. My own little XO label on there. And yeah, so pretty much everything on here in this whole setup is technically machined in Poland. Monarchy is a Polish company run by a modder designer named Jacek. His name's spelled like Jacek. If you see him on Facebook, I think it's like Jacek Abrams or something like that. Polish guy who works with Mateusz, who's the owner-operator of Hussar, which is also a company in Poland. They make their own products, but they also make or machine products for tons of other companies, all of which are featured here. So Real Mods is from Spain. However, this body of this mod was machined by Hussar. And this Boro in here is a Pro which is also which is from Protocol, which is also a Spanish company. Same with this drip tip is from Protocol, but Protocol gets all their stuff done by Hussar. Now, I think that's interesting that Hussar does a lot for many of the popular high-end brands out there. So, and this has a lot of Hussar claims to fame, not necessarily in a good way. We'll get into that about this RBA. Real quick, what do I think about it? Just overall, the short and sweet version is I like it. I do like it. There are some issues I have with it, but yeah. So let's take it out, break it down, clean it out, and take a real close look at it. There are plenty of reviews on this, but figured the more the merrier. It's definitely one of the more interesting RBAs to come out in a little while, so it's not brand new. They've been out for a little bit now, but I'm just getting a hold of one to do this review with. Special thanks to Justin Johnson for sending this on to me to do this review. Greatly appreciate him helping keep the channel alive. So yeah, the price on this, they're about $200 brand new. If you were to get it, especially if you were to get it from a vendor from like Vaping Art, which usually has a little bit of a markup. Vaping Art even had like the Lords of the Ring version, which had like a titanium crown on it. It was like a DLC with some weird, I guess, Lord of the Rings symbols, and the titanium crown looked neat. And that was like $320. Now, if you were to, on the flip side, if you were to get a clone version of this thing, they're all over the place. I mean, unfortunately, when you Google stuff like this, Boro Bridge RBAs, the first thing that comes up on Google are the clone websites and how to buy the clones. That'll be like the first 10 links. And it's kind of a shame that it's like that, but that's how it is. Anyhow, a clone of this same product would be like $25, something like that. Anyhow, so you can, when we break this down though, you'll definitely get a good view of it and how this is most definitely not a clone. and the machining kind of indicates that. It's definitely looks sharp, and I'm going to give it some, further detail in the close-ups. So here we go. The packaging, very reminiscent of just about every Monarchy RBA that's come out, or RTA for that matter, that's come out in quite some time. I think everything from Monarchy I've ever got has been in one of these tin type of things. I really like them. They're classy, they're simple, they don't take up too much space. It's better than a box. It's difficult for it to get damaged. It's good packaging, okay? Oh, there's like some kind of QR code in there for whatever reason. Now, I don't know what this is. There's a Grim Green one, and there's a Bogan one. I feel like I've seen something else on this thing that indicated Bogan in some regard. If anyone in the comments sees this part, let me know why there's QR codes in there. It may be explained in either one of their reviews, which I've seen, I just don't remember. So we have 3 airflow pins included and one that's pre-installed. This here, God, I'll have to do some homework on this. I believe this is some kind of reducer or alternate. Let me see something here. This S here kind of looks like the Sfomesto S from, they make the K-Fun. There's no M on this side, it's just that one. On this side, we got the MNCH. Geez, I can read. Nothing on this side. Always makes me want to say Munchkin. When this came to me, right, Justin did not have the chimney O-ring in. He had some kind of issue with it, and it came out. That was really difficult to get on because I didn't see a spare one. So I took out my Mobb 2 that I have right here. This is my Toxic M2 when they first came out on the stash box. I went into the spares bag of this and I took out an O-ring that looked way too small because the other O-ring that was included for this was too big. I'd put it on and I still couldn't get it to seat. So I put on this tiny O-ring. It was such a chore to fit it, but I got it and it fit on and now it's working fine. So, this is, I'm just going to go out and say it. I mean, this is what Hussar does. They screw up O-rings. I mean, they've done it so many times. They can come out, their machining is usually pretty good. They've had some hiccups too for tolerances, but finishing is always really nice. But O-rings is just like their kryptonite. I don't know what it is. I've had so many O-ring hiccups, and this isn't my product, but I would be mad if I had O-ring issues with something like this. Now, speaking of machining, I mean, I love those tooling marks. You see a lot of tooling marks on this deck. It's very nice looking that way. It's a much more wide oval shape than we would normally see on a Mobb, which is traditionally very round, circular type thing. And we have flathead screw, or I'm sorry, Phillips head screws now, which is a huge pro. I'm so glad they finally came around and did that. Just like the dope RBA has Phillips head. Everyone loves Phillips head. I mean, you lock in so much better with Phillips head. It's just easier to find. It's hard to strip. It's the best kind of driver style, in my opinion. Now, the M2 is a slight improvement from the Mobb Mini because, they still use those hex, Allen grub screws or whatever, but at least on the M2, they stepped them up a little bit. They were a little bigger, like the size of the V1 Atom or Biohazard from Protocol, like that size. But yeah, Phillips, great. So now what else can I get at? Oh, more on the O-rings. I mean, this is not the best tolerances. So what were they doing with this deck? Well, they were going for like a little bit more of like a bridged type thing, or maybe even exoset. I mean, just having the channels on the diagonal sides of each other and at the corners of the decks or the chamber space or whatever, and deck space, which is cool, which is different. It was something a little different. I think the remixed was a little bit like that. Look, I can't even get this seated. I mean, what am I doing wrong here? But the bottom line, the tolerances are not good. That used to be one of the best things about Mobb stuff. The deck O-rings used to be perfect every time. I mean, they were always spot on. This was, first that was hard to find it, just to get it on. And when I had to take this off to strip it down to show you, it was really hard to get it off. Very unlike the Monarchy machining I've experienced in the past. So I don't know if they rushed these out. I don't know if this is an early rendition of it, but it shouldn't be like that at all. I don't know what's going on with them, but that's what we got to work with. And right along with that, more O-ring follies. The crown. I couldn't get this crown to even sit on very well. Oh, it looks good right now. I don't know what that was about. Maybe now that it's extra dry, it stayed on easier. Let me see something. And this chimney should be sitting in here a little more snug. So the provided O-ring was too tight, or I mean too big, and it would I couldn't even get it in. And this one is too small, so it comes out relatively easily. Not too bad, but a little too easily. I mean, things should only be getting better, not worse. This is the way I look at it. I've heard a lot of people saying that this crown is very sharp. You could hurt yourself with it. I mean, I don't see how that could happen. I guess it is a little sharper, the middle one especially, but you're doing something, you're forcing something, or your technique of how you're getting it out of the boro or whatever you're doing is just not, you need to take a different approach if you're cutting yourself on a Monarchy crown. Now the base comes with a collar that you can unscrew and then thread the bottom of it directly into a 510 mod to do your coiling and wicking, which is all well and good. It keeps in line with all the Mobbs that came before it, which is nice. But, like all the Mobbs that came before it, they're still doing the O-ring chimney. And by this point, we know this is not the best way to go about things. With the dope and the unknown products, by now, Monarchy should be doing chimneys that thread on, whether, regularly threaded or reverse threaded. I don't care how you do it, just do it. The bridged, they did a lot of this O-ring jazz with the chimneys, but I'm pretty sure there's even bridged models where they've, managed to finally stray from that that system, that design. Though I know they still, they've gone back to it and they fuck with it. A lot of companies do. It's not just Monarchy, but these guys, I don't know. They really should make the extra effort to get away from the O-rings, because they can only be problematic. Better off just doing it doing what works. I mean, that's what people want. People want to have a threaded chimney system. Just works better. This is a little tight in there. You can see I'm trying to pull off some frays. Yeah, I mean, I'm just not sure why they still continue with the O-ring stuff. I mean, it'd be different if they were good at it, but they're not very good at it either, so just let it go. Do the threads like everybody else. You won't have any trouble that way. I think everything else about this is pretty good. It's just different enough. You know, it's not a huge departure from the actual regular Mobb, because it doesn't need to be, because the Mobb is such a great RBA already. But this was just different enough, because let's face it, there's like 100 versions of the Mobb and Mobb Mini, all starting with the original Mobb, which was gold, and there was like, what, 50 of them made or something. And on the original one, they actually had Phillips head screws, so go figure, they're finally going back to that. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of Mobbs that came out that were, they just changed the color on it, or they just added some extra, you know, graphics or materials, or changed the crown ever so slightly. It was getting a little redundant. I mean, they had something, a design that they were able to make that sold really well, they were able to make money off of, and they just kind of let it dry and ran with it as long as they could. So now they're kind of stepping out of the box a little bit and doing things a little differently, which is good. It's definitely needed. You know, it's one thing I like about Protocol. They keep things moving a good bit. They don't get too redundant. Even, you know, though they had a few Atom iterations, they were still different enough. They did change the bodies of them quite a bit, even though the overall design was the same. But yeah, so we're just cutting this down a little bit. Should be good enough. The channels aren't crazy big. I'd say they're actually just maybe a tiny bit smaller than my DL version M2, which was too big. So I'm glad they're just a tiny bit smaller. I'm giving it quite a haircut either way, but I'm almost positive we have a pendulum coil on here. We're using Can Only Be One again. And yeah, I always juice the RBA cotton before I try to put the cap on, because this way you know exactly how it's going to seat, because it'll already be wet, and then you can really strategically place your cotton. And we are dry firing on the Boxmod Mafia Tiny V3. If this mod doesn't look all that familiar to you, that's probably why. And we're gonna just push this stuff down and kind of get it preset to where it's gonna land in the channel. Okay, let's try to slab this over. So yeah, I mean, we're hanging out pretty significantly. Okay, so we're in. It doesn't have that same satisfying click into place kind of thing that you used to get with the old ones, though. I'm gonna clip off the excess, not too tight to the barrel, not because I'm worried about scratching it or anything. I mean, I should be, I am, but that's not the main reason. It's because if you go too short, you won't have any wiggle room. If you know you have some gaps, so you want to give yourself a little bit to play with. So you don't want to hang it out crazy, but you do want a little something to work with to kind of like push that stuff back in. Wow, I put a lot of juice on that, I guess. Sorry, Justin. I'll clean this up right now. And so now I'm just gonna poke up in there the little bit that's left out. I probably could leave it hanging out, but It's kind of unsightly. Definitely don't stuff it back up in there. You can even just use your hand to flatten it out with a finger, because you don't want to be like cramming the cotton in there. It needs to breathe. Once you are done dry firing and wicking, do not forget, like I often do, to put your collar back on. Now, I think Monarchy's kind of taken, well, Hussar in a way, has taken a step back on this, because in the past, I've had a lot of mobs that had enough threading exposed, and I guess the pin was short enough, the airflow pin, that I didn't have to take the collar off. On this one, I'm finding that more often than not, on all my mods for dry firing and stuff, I've been having to take the collar off. Like, what the hell? You're giving me extra steps. I don't know what they did differently. I think it's the length of the pin. I think the pin protrudes out too much. You know. Protocol with the Atom, that was also a very long pin. Unnecessarily long. Which, you know, then also can make it hard to find the right 510 to use. So, you know, maybe I'm being nitpicky, but I'm finding little things about this that are actually not being useful or being problematic. Even the fitment, it's not too bad. That went in okay. Sometimes a lot of the mobs, especially my M2, it doesn't want to seat very well at the base O-ring. And I know over time the base O-rings get a little swollen, especially if water hits them when you're rinsing them out, cleaning them. But I think that went in smoother than last time somehow, so. Alright, let's take a drag on this, let you know what I think of it. I believe we got the largest pin in here. The airflows that it comes with are 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4. Alright, here it is. Final thoughts, impressions on this, what can I say? I'm reading a 0.54 at 28.8 watts. First thing I'll say about this newest one, the Scepter or Scepter or whatever, the MS, the multiple sclerosis Monarchy, RBA. The main feature on the draw of this whole thing that's different is it's a lot more smooth. That's the one thing they really did something about on this. It's a lot more smooth than all of the mobs that have come before it. The Mobb used to be a very turbulent kind of draw. Not turbulent, but it was just like, it's not like it was passing through anything roughly. It was just like always like a very direct shot, you know, just the airflow hit you real fast, and I like that about it, actually. This one it seems like the air's coming in a little slower, a little more diffused, and thus it's a smoother draw. It's definitely smoother. That's the number one thing I'm getting about it. So this is really airy. I'm reading 0.53. I guess I could turn it up. I mean, I'd probably tighten this up a little bit, which I probably should have done while I had it open, but that's how I've been using it for the past week at 4. So I'm usually a 3mm airflow, 3.5, maybe even 2.5, but generally 3 is what I like to use on pretty much everything. So that is 31 watts, so it's decent. I do like it, for sure. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. It's decent. It's nothing crazy special. People have probably made up their mind about it already because it's been out for a little bit. If you can get one real cheap, secondhand, for 50 bucks, maybe 100 bucks. Okay, I could see getting it, but not something I can run right out and get brand new. I mean, the last brand new RBA I got that I went out and sought out was the control one, and I like everything about it. This, thanks again to Justin. I'm just borrowing this for the review, but I was so curious to try it, but now that I have, it's a little lackluster in just a few ways. But I love the machining marks on the deck. I love tooling marks like that. I'm like really like easily won over from that. I don't know why. Always have been, but yeah, a threaded chimney and just getting rid of those O-rings would have really helped this thing big time. Big improvement on the smooth airflow, but that's about it. So they could have gave you more pins again. I mean, they gave you more than they usually do, but if I want spare pins, the MTL pin set, which comes with 4 pins, a 1, a 1.2, a 1.5, and a 2. 4 airflow pins, 50 bucks. That's the authentic price. So I could get 2 clones with all the pins for the price of just 4 pins of the authentic. So it's like the clone authentic thing is just getting, I mean, if you're going to support the company, you're going to support the company, but it's just like, give us all the pins right off the bat, you know what I mean? And the sad thing is you could get the clone RBA and probably use all the clone pins in the authentic if you wanted to. And then you'd get, I mean, the ethics of this is just, it gets a little crazy. But hey, if you want to support Hussar or Monarchy, then there you go. But I just feel like they didn't execute this as well as they could have. That's pretty much my main takeaway on this. So, alright, I'm kind of rambling. Until next time, I got another review for you in the works. So, see you soon. Bye.